All right, thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. The ultimate college football preview is here, a 7-episode preview with college experts, local team experts, and Odyssey college football insiders. Deuce McAllister is actually one of those. Is everything you need to be ready for the college football season in one spot. Search for your ultimate college football preview on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm here with Stewart Patridge again. He talked to us last time. He's back by popular demand. He got cut off in the middle of an LSU story. We're going to get back to that, and we're going to talk a little bit about camp and the scrimmage. How you doing, Stewart?
I'm doing good. Glad to be back, Stephen. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, so what people don't realize, we were in the middle of a really good story when the internet went out with the LSU game in '97, because the week before, if people would realize, LSU had beaten Florida. I think Florida was number 1 in the country, and honestly, LSU looked really good doing it. Talk a little bit about the preparation lead up to that game.
The week before the game, we're watching film of them playing Florida, and usually Coach Mazzoni and I would usually have about an hour when it was just me and him, kind of talk through the game plan, what I was comfortable with, what we're going to put in. And we're watching the LSU-Florida game, and Florida was number 1. Doug Johnson was one of the top passers in the SEC, and he got picked off 5 times. Cedric Donaldson ran 2 for touchdowns. I mean, they were just in the backfield the whole game. And I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and neither one of us really wants to say anything because they look so dominant. And Florida was number 1. They spanked them. And LSU's number 8. So, the week leading up to the game, when you're putting in game plans, and he really did a great job, and we were able to execute. Heading up to, and anytime you play in Death Valley, I'm glad we played that at 11:30 game and not a 7 o'clock game for sure.
Yeah, I think Bo Wallace would agree with you after 2014, because that place at nighttime in a big game, it can turn into a real cauldron.
Yeah, it really can. There's a reason I've got a jail inside the stadium.
Yeah, in '95, I think that was the game. Paul Head played quarterback that game. Were you on that roster that year?
I was on the roster. I was getting redshirted that year.
Yeah, that was the game, because LSU at that point had, we're going off way into the weeds here, but like Eddie Kennison and Herb Tyler and all of those dudes, and it was kind of clicking a little bit.
Kevin Falk.
Yeah,
he was. Yeah, they had some real good players.
Yeah, they were some dudes. They were some legit dudes. But anyway, let's move on to this quarterback competition, because I'm interested in your perspective on this, since you've gone through multiple competitions in your life. This thing between Jackson Dart and Luke Altmaier, what is each quarterback kind of thinking and going through before each practice as they prepare?
Well, clearly there's a lot of pressure, but being a quarterback, if you choose to continue that path from Pee Wee to junior high to high school and then to the biggest stage there is, especially playing the SEC, you got to have some self-confidence. That doesn't mean that doesn't get shaked or rattled but I think when you've got an inner confidence, which I'm sure both these guys do, I actually got to see the first scrimmage. And so I'd say that, I know we've got a quarterback battle, but all 3 of them looked good. So that's a good problem to have, especially in the SEC, because, you're just one play away from, being the starter.
Yeah, what did you see in this scrimmage, like, from each guys that stood out?
Yeah, clearly Jackson Dart had a good game, but I thought Altmaier looked good as well. Kincaid, when he had his opportunity to get in. Some of the and I was listening to one of your podcasts earlier, you made a good point about plays being scripted and kind of how even though this is a scrimmage and you play out the drive, it could be that their offense, this series is working on a passing game inside the 20 where, one quarterback may have had a running game. So sometimes that's misleading. And then also when they're blowing the whistle with the defense tackles, so some of that, both quarterbacks look good to me. Clearly Jackson Dart, number-wise, Kincaid then had the best game, but they all look good. I think, competition always, brings out the best in everybody. But hopefully the second scrimmage, and I know I heard you speak about they probably want to extend not naming the starter to the end of the week, but you've got to have some cohesiveness, and you got to have that guy. Not only that, you got to have the attitude of the other players around you that believe in you. Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to make the offense go. That's what's going to make the team go. Is that, hey, the coaches believe in this guy. We believe in this guy. And so that's really where you don't want to have any doubt is the players around them. Whoever they choose to be the starter.
Yeah, and I do think that if there's a good scrimmage and they decide who is going to be the quarterback, we're not going to know who the quarterback is going to be, right. But it's going to be settled internally. Right. But, yeah, I do mention all the time, I tell people all the time that sometimes coaches can script plays for a bad performance for a quarterback. If they need to be brought down a little bit mentally, if they're a little bit cocky, they will humble them in the script.
That is the truth. I can confirm that for sure. So, and a lot of times, and just like you were saying, most practices, especially with Kiffin, are closed, so you don't get to see. So you've only got what really wants the story to come out that they want to come out. Of course, they've got to plan and do that for a reason. But I would say this, watching all the quarterbacks, but especially Jackson and Luke. Those guys can definitely both be successful starters in the SEC. So I'm not worried about that one bit. I tell you what, handing off to one of many running backs is going to be exciting to watch too. So I was excited about that.
Yeah, the last Ole Miss quarterback, and you went through this, to probably have a running back stable as good as these two quarterbacks is going to have is probably you, maybe Romero.
Yeah, that's right. John Avery, Deuce McAllister is kind of hard to start. 2 first-rounders.
Yes, 2 first-round picks.
It makes things a lot easier on you. And I was really impressed with the running back. So, and I tell you what, that's good for the quarterback. When you've got an experienced line, the one thing we do need is get the snaps kind of under control, but that'll come. But you got an experienced offensive line and two or three guys that can, tote the mail. Who's ever playing quarterback is going to get a chance to, shine.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm glad you went to the scrimmage and had these insights. Is there anything that we maybe are not thinking about from that first scrimmage that maybe you noticed?
Well, I just think, because everybody's talking, and he did have a great game, 14 of 17, 2 touchdowns. And so with the 13 of 20 with Luke, that's what I mean. Some of the if you watch the whole drive and kind of have the series of plays and whether they scored or how they moved the ball, some of that's, doesn't show up in the press clippings or the stats. So I thought both quarterbacks really did a good job. So I was excited about that. And so, those guys both can throw it. They both can move. They're athletic. They both seem to have the presence of knowing what's going on, directing guys. The defense got after them pretty good too, especially on the D-line. So, there was pressure, and they seemed to handle that well. So whoever gets named the starter, I feel confident that they're going to be able to lead the offense, put the points on the board and hopefully wins in the win column.
Yeah, kind of my mantra on this show over the last 6 months is root for a quarterback to clearly win the job. Do not root for a particular quarterback.
Right.
That needs to be the mindset. Root for the logo on the side of the helmet more than anything else.
That's exactly right. I think that's a good way to look at it, and also a good way because you're rooting for the team. Clearly the quarterback's usually the one that gets most of the blame or most of the credit. And he's usually should be the leader on the team, but you want that guy to be supported from everybody. Take it from a guy that once was. You want everybody to feel like you're the guy if you are.
One more thing before I let you go. Going back to that 97 LSU game because that's obviously on my brain. Matt Luke on Booger McFarland. On paper, that was just a huge mismatch, but Matt Luke had a day.
Yeah. I can't say enough things about Matt Luke, not only as a football player, but as a man and a person. Just a great guy. But, yeah, when he showed up to his first camp, he was 6'3", 242. And when we played Alabama, and he ended up having to start. I'm just a real good athlete, but tough. But yeah, Booger McFarland, 6'1", 295, and was a man in a man's league. But yeah, Matt. Matt's got some junkyard dog in him now. He, so plus he's smart. I mean, he called, a lot, especially that LSU game. We basically went, which a lot of teams do now. We didn't really do as much. I mean, in high school, I was in the high backfield, and when we started off, we've gone to one back, but because Avery got hurt, we started running a lot of things out of shotgun, which everybody does now. Mm-hmm. And everything was either a check with me or, check to a pass if we're going to run situation, depending on the defense. But Matt's making all those calls on the line as soon as I'm making them to, audible in or out of the play. I mean, never makes mistakes, but he got after him pretty good that day for sure.
Yeah. In today's RPO offenses, how would you have done in an RPO system?
I think I wasn't going to beat anybody in a foot race. Now the feet were pretty quick making decisions. They scheme so well now, and you get so much space. If you get guys going one place or another, I mean, I still think the best way to go is to fly. So throw the ball in the air. But I would have managed.
All right, and before I let you out of here, when John Avery ran that kickoff back against Alabama and Oxford, I think it was in '96, and they called a 15-yard penalty because he dove into the end zone. What was the reaction to that? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. I think that was actually '97.
'97, okay.
Yeah, because they just, we got up, we were ahead of them first half and let them come back. Ridiculous, but sometimes the refs are just anyway. But it was fun to watch. Look, and I normally got to see it from back in watching him move. I think the last time I was on here, I told you that first day at practice. My dad and brother had already told me about him. But that first day of practice in Shells, but he moved from far hash all the way to the left, and I mean, you got a bunch of guys that are on scholarship too in the SEC, and they look like they were standing still. I was like, goodness gracious alive.
Well, on his 97-yard touchdown run against Arkansas, when he got before the second level, he was gone. You just looked.
It was like I got my nose broke the play before. And so I'll never forget. Corey Peterson's coming in, and I was trying to get my breath. He couldn't really talk, and I was like, just call the play. And Corey was, no, I can't call the play. I don't know what to say. Just say what you're going to say to me. Trying to get my helmet. And so and luckily, handed off to him. It was an inside zone, and I mean, he made one move, and he was gone. I mean, it was fun to watch.
It was one of the most impressive things because you played at a time when the main quarterback, that whenever you thought of Ole Miss, it was still Archie Manning. Everybody thought about Archie. Everything went back to Archie. Since you've played, I mean, people, Romero had a career. Eli has come through. Bo Wallace, Chad, there's kind of been an assembly line, but you really started the trend. Those guys in '97 on to that, through Romero, through Eli. You were the guy that started this.
Well, I was glad to be a part of it, and we touched on this a little bit. That '97 team, we'd only had, me and my dad argued about this, 59 or 61 guys on scholarship because we'd had the second worst probation next to SMU ever. So for us to, have a great season, go to a bowl game, finish in the top 25, and then from that year on, I think we went to 8 straight bowl games maybe, and only one other school had done that. So we started, glad to be part of something that started, Ole Miss back on a consistent winning and, having some good teams. So, glad to be a part of that. Glad to be a Rebel for sure, always.
When did you visit out of high school? What was the year for?
I graduated in '93, so I didn't get recruited. Nobody recruited me in high school. I take that back. John Darnell, who's a great quarterback for Ole Miss and a good friend, he was coaching the high school team down in Jackson, and we played against him. And so he got a job at Delta State. And his first day there, he drove over, Cleveland's about 30 minutes from Greenwood. took me over there to meet the coach. They'd already offered a scholarship. They called Coach Brewer. They didn't have any scholarship. So nobody really recruited me until I went to junior college, and we won a national championship there. And so then I got to, then everybody recruited me after that. But I'm a Mississippi guy and an SEC guy. That was kind of my goal. My dad played in the SEC. I wanted to play in the SEC. And I knew I was going to be at one of the Mississippi schools, so that's kind of how that came about.
Yeah, the reason I bring that up is because in the 91, 92, and 93 years at Ole Miss, those last Billy Brewer hurrahs, like Rush Showers and Tom Luke and those guys were coming through. I was wondering if you had a relationship with any of those guys.
Yeah, I know both of them quite well. Both of them unbelievable athletes, competitors, good guys. Unfortunately for them, Tom got a couple concussions and come out. And Russ, if he would have played in the type of offense that I got to play in, or some of these guys now, I mean, it would have been, big, athletic, fast, can throw. And they had him running the trap option. And it's just
that's right, I remember that.
I mean, yeah, and that's just, and sometimes people don't understand, what's going on, and they just do the player, and they don't understand that, nobody could be successful, out of that. So
we have a mantra on this show. System is everything. It matters about everything.
In anything you do. That's exactly right. So,
but anyway, Stewart, thank you so much for coming on the show. And I'd love to have you back, maybe for one of our post-game show if you'll do it.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, glad to be a Rebel and a fan like everybody else now. So,
all right, man.
Hotty toddy.
Appreciate it. Hotty toddy.